Hey everyone, I want to talk about something you might not expect, something that's quietly, steadily, and powerfully reshaping lives in the Western world. It's not a trend, it's not a headline, it's a truth. It's Islam. Now wait, before the headlines you've seen start flooding your mind, I want you to do something with me. Pause, breathe, clear the slate. We're going to talk about this not from fear, not from hype, but from facts, from human stories, and from real observation. Let's start here. Islam isn't spreading in the West because someone's forcing it. It's not because of some secret strategy. It's because more and more people are searching, really searching for purpose, for peace, for a path that feels anchored in something real. And guess what? A lot of them are finding it in Islam, not with a bang, not with a billboard, but in the quiet moments, like a college student reading the Qur'an at 2 a.m. or a single mom watching a Muslim neighbor's patience and discipline and thinking, how do I get that kind of calm? This is the first big idea I want to hit home. Influence doesn't have to be loud. It can be consistent. It can be kind. It can be a quiet light. Now, some people are shocked when they hear that educated, well-read, thoughtful people in the West are choosing Islam. And I get it. There's been a lot of misinformation, but here's what's actually happening. These are people who dug deep, questioned everything, and came out the other side with clarity. They didn't convert out of pressure. They chose it out of conviction. Why? Because Islam offers something rare today: structure without control, meaning without chaos, discipline without judgment. It says pray, but not because someone is watching. Pray because it changes you. And let's be honest, Western culture is exhausted. We are tired of the rat race, tired of the noise, tired of chasing things that leave us feeling more empty. So when Islam shows up with 5 daily check-ins with your creator, fasting that reminds you to be humble, giving that forces you to think of others, it's not weird, it's refreshing. Here's another powerful truth. Most people aren't learning about Islam from textbooks. They're learning it from Muslims, from the guy who stays calm under pressure, from the woman who speaks with grace and doesn't compromise on her value, from the young person who's proud of their identity but never pushes it in your face. That's the new wave. That's the silent light. And we need to talk about it not with fear, but with curiosity, because this isn't just about religion, it's about a mindset shift, a return to community, character, and connection. So if you've ever wondered why Islam is growing in the West, despite all odds, despite all negativity, despite all confusion, here's your answer: because light always finds a way, silently, steadily, powerfully. Thank you. When we think about influence in today's world, we often imagine something loud, fast, and attention-grabbing. We think of viral videos, breaking news, protest chants, or political speeches. But influence doesn't always look like that. Sometimes the most powerful kind of influence is quiet. It's not in your face. It doesn't demand attention, but it transforms people deeply. This is exactly how Islam is spreading across the West, not through noise, not through media dominance, but through subtle, consistent presence and personal impact. Across Western societies, we're witnessing something remarkable. People are engaging with Islam in deeply personal ways, and they're doing it often outside of the spotlight. It's not coming from aggressive preaching or flashy campaigns. It's happening in quiet conversations, moments of observation, and internal reflections. A coworker who takes a moment to pray during lunch break, a neighbor who fasts through Ramadan and shares food with others, a student who respectfully declines certain social activities and carries themselves with purpose. These aren't loud statements, but they're powerful ones. The human mind is wired to notice patterns. When people in the West see Muslims consistently living with discipline, grace, generosity, and peace, even in the face of pressure or misunderstanding, they start asking questions, not always out loud, but internally. Why does she seem so calm under stress? How does he stay so committed to his values without seeming self-righteous? What makes their family bond so strong? These subtle moments of admiration can be the start of someone's journey toward learning about Islam. This is not influence that shouts. This is influence that shows. And that's what makes it so powerful. In an age where we are bombarded with empty slogans, constant distractions, and performative activism, the quiet consistency of Islamic practice stands out. The daily rituals like prayer, fasting, modesty, and charity aren't just rules, They become visible expressions of inner alignment, and that's attractive to people who are spiritually hungry. Think about how different that is from the kind of influence we're used to seeing. People are exhausted by noise. They don't trust flashy anymore. They want real. They want something rooted, something tested over time. Islam offers a way of life that doesn't bend with trends. It's not rebranded every few years. It's ancient, it's disciplined, it's stable, and perhaps that's why so many in the West, especially the younger generation, are quietly leaning into it. They're not converting because of a trend. They're not doing it for likes or to fit in. In fact, choosing Islam in many Western contexts still comes with challenges, but they're choosing it anyway. Why? Because the influence they encountered wasn't forced on them. It was lived in front of them. It was real. It was consistent, and it made them want to know more. Influence like that doesn't require volume. It requires authenticity. So yes, the light of Islam is spreading in the West, but not with a spotlight. It's spreading like sunlight at dawn, silent, sure, and undeniable. It spreads every time someone sees a Muslim live out their faith with integrity. It spreads every time a stereotype is quietly disproven by a kind gesture. It spreads not because it is imposed, but because it is witnessed, and that witnessing leads to understanding, and that's what makes this silent light so unstoppable. Modern life in the West is without question full of incredible advancements: technology, medicine, access to information, freedom of expression, but beneath all that, there's an undeniable sense of restlessness that many people feel. It's the paradox of progress. We have more comfort than ever, but less contentment. We're hyper-connected online, but increasingly isolated in real life. People can access everything at their fingertips: news, entertainment, even therapy apps, yet many feel disconnected from themselves and the world around them. In the midst of this cultural exhaustion, many are turning inward and asking a powerful question: what's all this really for? This is where Islam quietly enters the conversation, not through confrontation, but through clarity. It doesn't dismiss the modern world, it meets it, and it offers a deeply needed counterbalance. While Western society increasingly celebrates individualism, instant gratification, and constant stimulation, Islam offers structure, purpose, and reflection, not as a rejection of the modern world, but as a compass within it. For many people raised in secular environments, the routines of life have started to feel mechanical. Wake up, rush to work or school, scroll endlessly on social media, chase success, go to sleep, repeat. There's very little sacred space in that rhythm. Islam reintroduces the idea that life isn't just a race to accomplish more, earn more, or appear more successful. It reminds people that life has a purpose beyond the material, that the soul matters, that intention matters, that every action, no matter how small, has spiritual weight. And it doesn't just say that, it gives you a framework to live it out. 5 daily prayers woven throughout the day are not just rituals, they're intentional pauses. Each one is an opportunity to unplug from the chaos and realign with something greater. Fasting during Ramadan isn't just about food, it's about restraint in a world that constantly tells us to indulge. It's about empathy in a society that too often encourages competition over compassion. These practices aren't random. They're designed to anchor the human being, especially in times of imbalance. What many in the West are discovering is that Islam offers both spiritual depth and practical guidance. It's not just about belief, it's about behavior. It answers not only the question, what do you believe, but also, how do you live it? And that's what resonates with so many, especially those who've tried other paths and found them hollow. Self-help books, meditation apps, productivity hacks, they might work for a time, but they often lack the depth and consistency that comes from a full spiritual system. Islam offers that system, centuries old, tested, lived, and deeply coherent. It's not surprising then that in cities like London, Paris, New York, and Toronto, more and more people are choosing to explore Islam not because of pressure, but because of profound spiritual curiosity. They are asking, how can I find peace in a world built on stress? How can I stay grounded when everything around me keeps changing? And Islam doesn't just offer answers, it offers habits, identity, and connection. It's important to understand that for many new Muslims in the West, Choosing Islam isn't about leaving their culture, it's about finding balance within it. Islam is not a rejection of modern life, but a way to engage with it more mindfully, to live with intention, to prioritize the soul. And in a world where more and more people are searching for meaning beyond the material, that's not just appealing, it's transformative. So when faith meets the modern world, not with fear, but with wisdom, the result is not conflict, it's clarity. And Islam for many is that clarity. For decades, many people in the West have formed their understanding of Islam, not through study or personal experience, but through media headlines, political rhetoric, and second-hand stereotypes. The dominant narratives often associated Islam with extremism, oppression, or foreignness. These portrayals were rarely rooted in fact and almost never reflected the everyday lives of the 1.9 billion Muslims around the world. But what's happening now is a quiet revolution. People are beginning to see beyond those surface-level impressions. They're meeting Muslims in their classrooms, workplaces, neighborhoods, and online platforms, and what they're discovering is often very different from what they were taught to believe. Misconceptions begin to crumble when they're replaced with real human connection. It's one thing to hear a news story about Islam, it's another to work beside a Muslim colleague who is kind, reliable, and thoughtful. It's one thing to hear about religious laws, it's another to see a Muslim family living with generosity, humor, and love. This shift from abstraction to authenticity is one of the key reasons why Islam is quietly growing in the West. It's not happening through arguments, it's happening through exposure, experience, and empathy. Take for example the idea that Islam is a religion that oppresses women. This is one of the most repeated misconceptions. Yet when people begin to listen to Muslim women themselves, authors, educators, professionals, and students, they often hear something surprising. Many of these women speak about Islam not as something that limits them, but as something that empowers them. They describe the hijab not as a symbol of oppression, but of dignity, control, and identity. They talk about how Islam gave them the right to education, work, inheritance, and leadership long before many Western societies did. This kind of narrative doesn't fit neatly into the headlines, but it is the lived reality for millions. Another common misunderstanding is the belief that Islam promotes violence or intolerance. But when people actually study the teachings of Islam, its emphasis on mercy, peace, and justice, they begin to see a different picture. The very word Islam comes from the root word salam, meaning peace. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught kindness to neighbors, compassion to animals, and mercy even to one's enemy. The Qur'an encourages the use of reason, the pursuit of knowledge, and respectful dialogue with people of other faiths. When this message is encountered directly, it challenges the simplistic and often harmful images that have been projected for so long. Education plays a major role. Universities, interfaith forums, podcasts, social media platforms, and online lectures have opened up access to Islamic thought in ways that didn't exist before. Now someone curious about Islam can download a free English translation of the Quran, listen to a convert's story on YouTube, or follow a Muslim scholar on social media, and in doing so, they can bypass the filters of fear and bias that often shape mainstream representation. The result of all this is a growing openness. People in the West are no longer content with surface-level answers. They're asking deeper questions. They want to understand, not just react. And as they do, they begin to realize that Islam is not the monolith it's been made out to be. It's a global faith with incredible diversity, rich intellectual tradition, and profound spiritual depth. What's most powerful is that this shift isn't driven by PR campaigns, it's driven by truth, by Muslims living their faith with integrity, by non-Muslims choosing to learn instead of judge, and by a rising generation that's not satisfied with inherited bias. They want first-hand experience. So misconception by misconception, the fog is lifting, and what's emerging is not just a clearer image of Islam, but a deeper respect for it. In many people's minds, the idea of someone converting to Islam seems foreign or even hard to imagine, especially in Western societies where religion is often seen as something you're born into, not something you choose as an adult. And yet in growing numbers, people across the West are embracing Islam through a deliberate, conscious, and often deeply researched decision. These are not impulsive or emotionally driven conversions. They are thoughtful transformations made by individuals who have taken the time to reflect, investigate, and ultimately realign their lives based on what they've discovered. What makes this movement so striking is how it stands in contrast to the narrative that religion, especially Islam, is inherited, restrictive, or outdated. In fact, for many converts, Islam represents the exact opposite. It offers clarity in a world of confusion, structure in an era of instability, and a sense of sacred meaning in lives that once felt fragmented or hollow. These conversions are not about abandoning freedom or identity. They are about reclaiming both within a spiritual system that gives purpose to every aspect of daily life. Most of these individuals come to Islam through personal exploration. They are not being coerced. They are not raised in Muslim families. In many cases, they are professionals, students, parents, and thinkers who start out simply curious. Maybe they encountered a Muslim friend who made them feel respected. Maybe they were moved by the discipline of Ramadan or the peace they saw in someone who prayed regularly. Maybe they picked up a copy of the Qur'an just to understand it for themselves, and what they found wasn't what they expected. What follows is often a quiet but intense period of study. They ask questions, watch lectures, read translations, join interfaith circles, and sometimes even learn Arabic to access the Qur'an in its original form. They look into Islamic history, theology, law, and spirituality. They engage critically, skeptically, and with depth. And yet after all that, many still come to the conclusion, this makes sense, this speaks to my soul, this is what I've been searching for. There's something incredibly empowering about making a decision like that as an adult. It's not easy. It often means facing difficult conversations with friends and family, enduring misconceptions, or even feeling temporarily out of place in both old and new communities. But those who make that choice do so with conviction. They're not looking for applause or attention, they're looking for peace, and they're willing to make sacrifices for it. What's also important to note is that these conversions are happening across diverse racial, cultural, and socio-economic backgrounds. From African American communities rediscovering a sense of heritage and dignity through Islam, to white Europeans seeking simplicity and structure, to Latin Americans embracing the faith as part of a broader search for spiritual grounding, Islam is speaking to people in very personal way. And each story is different, but the core theme remains the same. It was a choice, a deeply informed, courageous, and conscious choice. This reality challenges the old myths that people are brainwashed or manipulated into the faith. In fact, most converts face far more social resistance than support. Their decision to embrace Islam is not a way to escape responsibility, but a way to take full ownership of their lives, spiritually, ethically, and personally. It reflects a generation of people who are not afraid to go against the grain if it means aligning with their truth. So when we talk about Islam spreading in the West, we need to understand that it's not a wave of forced ideology, it's a wave of awakened hearts, one soul at a time, choosing faith not out of fear or pressure, but out of understanding. In a time when people are overwhelmed with choices, overloaded with information, and often uncertain about which direction to take in life, there's a quiet hunger growing in the West, a hunger for values that feel grounded, time-tested, and real. Many are finding that the core values of Islam speak directly to this need, not because of any external pressure, but because those values resonate deeply with their inner sense of what a meaningful life should look like. What makes this so powerful is that Islam isn't offering something flashy or new, it's offering something timeless, something that has guided individuals and communities for centuries with clarity and purpose. At the center of this resonance is the principle of discipline. In a world where impulsiveness and instant gratification are normalized, Islam offers a life that is structured but not rigid. The daily prayers create rhythm, fasting teaches patience and self-control. Modesty in behavior and dress pushes against the constant pressure to overexpose or seek validation. People are realizing that this level of intentional living isn't restrictive, it's freeing. It removes the noise, it creates space for focus and reflection. And that discipline, when lived consistently, produces a kind of inner peace that many in the modern world are desperately searching for. Another value that speaks deeply to the Western heart is charity. In Islamic teaching, charity is not a seasonal activity or a social media stunt. It's a constant obligation and a measure of one's sincerity. Zakat, the obligatory almsgiving, ensures that every capable Muslim gives a portion of their wealth annually to those in need. There's also sadaqah, voluntary charity, that can be as simple as a smile or helping someone carry their bag. In a society that often feels individualistic and self-centered, these values of generosity, service, and concern for the less fortunate offer a moral and emotional counterbalance. They remind people that success is not just what you accumulate but how you uplift others. Family, too, is a central value in Islam that resonates strongly, especially in a Western context where family bonds can often feel strained or distant. Islam places tremendous emphasis on maintaining close ties with relatives, showing respect to parents, caring for children, and nurturing the home as a space of love, faith, and safety. In a time where many are questioning the breakdown of family life, the Islamic model built on responsibility, affection, and defined roles offers a sense of stability that is deeply attractive. It isn't perfect, and Muslims too face challenges like anyone else, but the value system is clear and rooted in divine purpose. Then there's peace, not just the absence of conflict but the active pursuit of inner and outer harmony. Islam doesn't promise a life without hardship, but it provides tools to handle hardship with patience, trust, and faith in something greater. For many in the West, who are weary of anxiety, burnout, and emotional disconnection, the spiritual practices of Islam, like dhikr, remembrance of God, prayer, and reflection, offer a healing framework. They create a space where people can find calm amidst the chaos. These values aren't being taught through theory alone, they're being lived. Every day, people are observing Muslims who quietly embody these principles, and they're realizing, this isn't just about religion, this is about a way of life that actually works. It's practical, it's holistic, it addresses the mind, the body, the soul, and the community, and that kind of integration is rare in modern society, where everything feels fragmented. So as more individuals in the West seek out meaning beyond material success and pleasure, they are beginning to see in Islam a mirror of the values they already yearn for, values that don't just sound good in theory, but that are meant to be lived day in and day out. And in that resonance, the light of Islam continues to spread, quietly, steadily, and with purpose. Change doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes the most powerful revolutions begin in silence, in the quiet moments of thought, in personal decisions made behind closed doors, in the slow shift of perception over time. That is exactly the kind of revolution Islam is sparking across the Western world today. It's not driven by political movements or marketing campaigns. It's not being broadcast in headlines. Instead, it's unfolding quietly through individuals who are choosing to change their lives based on spiritual conviction, ethical clarity, and a desire for meaning. That's what makes it so remarkable. In many Western societies, people are beginning to look beyond the surface of life. They're beginning to question the systems they grew up with, systems that promised freedom but often delivered confusion, that offered pleasure but not peace, that emphasized choice but gave no guidance on how to choose well. In that spiritual vacuum, Islam is emerging not as an imposed force but as a discovered light. It isn't shouting for attention, it's simply being lit. And people are paying attention, not because they are told to, but because they see something real and consistent in the way Muslims live, speak, and relate to the world. This quiet revolution is happening in coffee shops, in college dorms, in online discussion forums, in therapy sessions, and around dinner tables. A young man reads the Qur'an and finds answers to questions he thought no one was asking. A woman who's been disillusioned by superficial self-help philosophies finds solace in the spiritual discipline of prayer. A family rethinks their entire lifestyle after seeing the peace that faith brings to a Muslim neighbor's home. These are not isolated incidents, they're part of a growing organic wave of reawakening, a movement that is not loud but profound. What makes this shift especially unique is how personal it is. Islam is not spreading through political influence or social pressure, it's spreading through individual transformation. One person chooses to explore Islam, that person finds peace and clarity. Others around them notice the change, they ask questions, they learn, and the ripple effect continues. This is how hearts change, and as hearts change, societies slowly do too. It's grassroots, it's patient, and it's resilient. This also challenges the common assumption that progress must always be secular. Many in the West have grown up believing that modernity and religion are at odds, that to move forward, one must leave faith behind. But what Islam is showing through this quiet revolution is that the two can coexist, and not just coexist, but complement each other. You can be spiritually grounded and intellectually sharp. You can live in the modern world without losing your moral compass. In fact, many are finding that it is because of Islam that they are able to navigate the complexities of modern life with clarity and calm. What we are witnessing is not a cultural takeover, it's a spiritual revival. It's not about numbers, it's about depth. People aren't converting to Islam to fit in or to make a statement. They're converting because something inside them is awakening to a deeper truth. That truth is personal, but it's also universal. That human beings were created for more than consumption, competition, and distraction. That we were made to worship, to serve, to grow, and to live with intention. And so even without fanfare, the light of Islam continues to spread across the West, slowly, silently, powerfully, one heart at a time. So as we step back and look at this journey, from curiosity to conviction, from misconception to clarity, from chaos to calm, what we see unfolding across the Western world is not a trend, it's not a phase, it's a profound awakening. Islam is not entering through force, nor is it asking for a spotlight. It is entering through truth, through lived example, and through the sincere hearts of people who are looking for more than just information. They are looking for transformation. The silent light is spreading not through noise or dominance, but through the quiet power of discipline, peace, service, and purpose. Spreading through the young professional who pauses to pray between meetings, the mother who raises her children with values anchored in faith, the student who chooses modesty over popularity, the convert who walks away from confusion into clarity. These are not stories of rebellion, they are stories of return. Return to self, return to purpose, return to God. In a world overwhelmed with distractions, Islam offers focus. In a culture struggling with loneliness, it offers connection. In a time where many feel spiritually bankrupt, it offers a path toward peace that is rooted not in trends, but in timeless truth. And as this quiet revolution grows, one soul at a time, it sends a powerful message. You don't have to raise your voice to change the world. Sometimes you just have to live the truth, consistently, courageously, and with conviction. That is how light spreads, not through force, but through faith, not through fear, but through example, not through domination, but through dedication. And that is exactly what Islam is doing across the West today. The light is here, it's growing, it's guiding, and it's only just beginning.